Hey there guys, so previously I showed a Rikku clear on the Dark Ruby Rose, but that was a team that I put together very quickly, didn't have time to play test. Now that I've had time to really optimize and test some ideas, I'm going to be taking down that old video and putting up this new clear, which is a lot better. So now we're going with a physical cover team, and we're going to be killing on turn 4 instead. A lot more damage this way, a lot easier to gear, and a little bit less RNG as well. Okay, so turn chart will be in the comments, all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and Leviathan Field on turn 1 with Ferris. Melissa can Shelga, Shared Immunity and Parasol Shield. Wilk can do Cloud Fist. We can just guard Rikku. Nicole is going to Flood and then double Protectka. Don't use Imbues yet. Rivera is going to give physical cover to Rikku. So for this clear, we need the skeleton on turn 1. Thankfully, the skeleton is relatively more common than the cat. Unfortunately, the boss decided to summon nobody on turn 1. That'll happen sometimes. If that happens, retreat, go back in, and we're looking for the skeleton on turn 1. If the boss summons both the tiger and the skeleton, that's totally fine, but we need at least the skeleton on turn 1. So let's go ahead and just reload everyone. Ferris doesn't properly reload, you got to manually do her Esper each time, but that's fine. So we're looking for the skeleton on turn 1. Come on, boss. Cooperate with me. There we go, there's the skeleton. Okay, so we're good to go. Now, what we're going to do, if the tiger had spawned as well, Wilk would just kill the tiger with single target damage. You can use Metal Slash, or you can go to the base form and single target chain, whatever. Just kill the tiger with Wilk. If the tiger doesn't spawn, Wilk can just guard. Now Rivera is going to normal attack. Then Ferris from an Esper is going to reflect Bar Thundega onto the skeleton. Now that the skeleton has Thunder Resist, we can use Rikku's base form LB, which is naturally Thunder Element, and it won't kill the skeleton. Now, Nicole is going to do his big rolling amplify on Rikku. Make sure you do that after she does her LB for the mod buff. And then Melissa on this turn can just guard. Who cares? Okay, some attacks. We're not really worried about it. We are wearing some resistance gear for the magic stuff, and Rikku is evade covering the physical stuff. Okay, on this turn, we can use the Leviathan Field with Nicole. We got to deal dark damage to the boss on turn 3. So this turn, Rikku, in the base form, is using a dark weapon. We're going to just use a single target attack on the boss. So just Power Break or any kind of single target attack to deal darkness damage. Wilk will 90% break the boss. Ferris will use a breaker material on the boss, doesn't matter which one, but an 85% break on the boss. Rivera is going to refresh that cover on Rikku. And then Melissa is going to either LB or SLB, targeting herself. Now, this turn, the skeleton is going to apply Mirage to the enemies, and the boss may or may not summon the tiger as well. If the tiger is summoned, it's fine. So she tried to summon another skeleton, but it's already alive, so it didn't happen. If the tiger had spawned, Rivera would kill the tiger. So we would just use Metal Slash or find a way for Rivera to kill the tiger. But Rivera can just guard because the tiger didn't spawn. Rikku is going to use, in the shift form, you want to do this while the enemies still have Mirage. She's going to do Varja on the enemies. It's going to get Miraged. So now she's berserked. Now we're going to target the main boss, and with Wilk, we're going to use his LB. That'll get rid of the rest of the Mirage and put accuracy down on the boss. Melissa. Now, if your Melissa is EX3, your SLB last turn would have made seconds of support ready to go. Because ours is only EX2, we're going to use minutes of might instead. But first of all, use Darkra. We got to deal dark damage to the boss this turn. So we're going to Darkra to deal dark damage. We're going to use Human Killer on our Rikku. And then we're going to either use seconds of support if you're EX3. If you're not EX3, we're going to use minutes of might. And then Nicole, because we're not EX3, he's going to shift and use his shifted LB for a slightly bigger stat buff. And now as the last action, Ferris is going to use a different breaker materia on the skeleton. So here we go. Now, counter time. We're looking for, again, this is a max of 18 counters. So we're looking for the boss to, the chain to be 100 or better, but we're looking for optimally up to 125. With the current gear we're using, our counter chance is a little higher than the old video that I did. So there's a higher chance of getting a 125 counter, or at the very least over 100. 104, unfortunate, that was kind of a low roll. So I'm going to run it again, and I'll go ahead and show you the damage breakdown. I'm going to run it again to try to get, a slightly higher roll, just to see, how high we can go. I'd love to get a 125, and it's not super impossible to get, but it is a little tricky. So here is the, perfect score. I did have a 118 in a test run, but that's a 15 billion, as you can see, already way better than the first video. But I'm gonna run it again and try to get closer to 125. So see you in a moment. All right, guys, let's see if we get a higher chain count on this turn. So, looking for that big 125. Oh, 118, good enough. I'll probably run it a few more times to get a little bit higher, but there we go. There is 118. Now, I will say, if you want to extend the clear to turn 6, you can potentially get up to 132 counter, or 19 counters on turn 6, but that does slow it down a decent chunk. So there's a 17.6, and that still wasn't even the max for this one. And again, my Rikku is only EX2. So with an EX3 Rikku, level 130, and you go, you get the full 18 counters, or you go to turn 6 and get 19 counters, you can definitely do, up to like 25 billion or something. But, with an EX2 Rikku, we're kind of hard locked based on what we have. So this clear is at the very least a little bit easier because the boss very frequently summons the skeleton. The tiger is a much rarer spawn. Anyway, so Nicole in the base form is kind of whatever, a little bit of Esperfill. Shift form, same thing, some mana reduction because he does cost a lot for his Amplify. And yeah, kind of whatever. Make sure the whole party, by the way, has 30 or better to wind resist, because we have a 200 lightning resist buff from Rikku, and we're getting a 70 wind resist buff from Melissa. So everyone needs 30 wind resist for the wind attack on turn 2. Melissa, just 30 wind resist. Other than that, kind of who cares. She's our provoker, and she's wearing death immunity, by the way. Death immunity, and I gave her status immunity, but, we're buffing it anyhow. So there we go. Rivera is using Metal Slash. This is a fixed 2,000 damage. It'll guarantee kill the tiger if it spawns. It allows her to do that, or you can just give her another way to kill the tiger. If the tiger spawns on turn 4, which usually won't even happen because the tiger is pretty rare. Other than that, a little bit of Esperfill, a little bit of wind resist, and she gives physical cover to our Rikku. Ferris in the shift form is using a little bit of wind resist, some Esperfill, and she's using 2 different 85 breaker materials because we need to break both the boss as well as one of the minions, and that they don't share a cooldown. So give her one of 2 different kinds. Wilk in the shift form is using Metal Slash. That way he can kill the tiger on turn 2 if it spawns. If it doesn't spawn, you could also just gear him for damage. It's fine too. We also give him a lot of LB fill so that we can use his LB on turn 4. So maxed LB fill, we are using things like the Paws of Prosperity. You could also use Nicole on turn 2 to do his shifted cooldown to fill LB that way. But we got to get his LB again for the accuracy down on turn 4. And here's Rikku. In the base form, she's using a dark weapon and a single target attack. That way she can deal dark damage on turn 3 without doing AoE and killing the skeleton off. Other than that, she's full evasion in the base form and 30 or better wind resist. Shift form is, now this is a lot easier to gear. We don't care about resistance anymore. Just make sure she does not have 30 or higher dark resist. 25 is fine, but we don't want her to be immune to dark, and we are using a 70% resist buff. So she needs to be 25 or lower to darkness. The rest of the resistances don't matter with this clear. So we're using the Kanya for evasion and chain speed. If you have it, it's good. If not, just give her, Wilkes STMR or something, or give her an axe if you really want to play the variance game. Blizzard Orb, you can go double Blizzard Orb, but if you're willing to take a little bit of extra RNG, Orange Jug will be more damage, and we're going that way. Looming Wrath and double counter, just, because now we're countering physical. So we have 3 different counter sources. Blizzard Orb, counter, and then Looming Wrath is buffing them all by 50%. If you don't have Looming Wrath, add another counter material. So just, as much counter as you can, because she caps all the stats pretty easily. And then chain cap up card, and then we're doing maxed out human killer. The damage on the skeleton honestly doesn't matter. The skeleton has literally 2 million defense, so don't worry about optimizing damage for the skeleton. But if you really want to, if you really want to squeeze every single speck of damage, give her some undead killer. Whatever, you do you. But I promise you, the damage on the skeleton is almost irrelevant. Anyway, there's an updated clear. So based on my calculations, if you've got an EX3, level 130 Rikku, if you go all the way to turn 6 for the 19 counters. By the way, the turn 6 strategy is very different because the boss AoE dispels on turn 5. I'm not covering that right now because it's a lot harder to pull off. But if you're willing to do that, you've got a maxed out Rikku, fully whaled out, EX3, level 130. You get all the counters. You get 19 counters on turn 6, and you're geared for really high damage. If you really want to fight that RNG, like this can go as high as 30 billion, based on my calculations. But that does require an EX3 Rikku and really, really good luck and variance. But, it's something. Anyway, there's an updated Rikku clear as opposed to my previous one, which was not really that good because I kind of rushed it. Anyway, see you in a bit.